topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
This is Beyond Confidence with your host, Divya Parekh. Do you want to live a more fulfilling life? Do you want to live your legacy and achieve your personal, professional, and financial goals? Well, coming up on Divya Parekh's Beyond Confidence, you will hear real stories of leaders, entrepreneurs, and achievers who have stepped into discomfort, shattered their status quo, and are living the life they want. You will learn how relationships are the key to achieving your aspirations and financial goals. Moving your career or business forward does not have to happen at the expense of your personal or family life, or vice versa. Learn more at www.divyaparekh.com, and you can connect with Divya at contact@divyaparekh.com. This is Beyond Confidence, and now here's your host, Divya Parekh.
Good morning, listeners. It's Tuesday, and of course, I'm thrilled to be here with y'all. And today, we have a very special surprise in store with you. So, one thing I do want to share quickly, that life has its own way of happening. And just one very quick story that I want to share with you. Just past this weekend, everything that could go wrong went wrong, and everything that could go right went right. So I was running with my partner, the Confident Leaders cohort. We were connecting with the team members, with the ladies, like at heart. I mean, it was a deep connection. So first day's over. I'm just high, without drinking anything or without taking anything. Come the second day, not only my car is showing signs, so I take it to the dealer. When I come back, then what happens is that as I'm opening the garage door, it stuttered and it falls on my head, drop my coffee. So, and then of course I got to show up for my cohort. So I do show up. I'm like, universe is definitely testing me. I talk about presence, and there you go. Then I fractured my toe. So all in all, what I want to share is that when life is fun, yes, we can be present, we can be mindful. But the key is, how do you maintain that presence while you're feeling the discomfort? How can you be on the edge of comfort? And that's what we are going to be talking about today as we speak to our very special guest, Abha.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning.
Good morning.
So sorry about your toe.
It's all part of life. It's like, we take things for granted, and then you find, that little toe can make a huge difference.
Absolutely.
But I always say that without contrast, there's no clarity. So unless you know the contrast, you don't appreciate as much. You appreciate, but then it kind of brings you back into focus. So Abha, share with us, when you were young, do you recall a moment or a person who left a positive mark on you?
Oh, absolutely. I'm very lucky to say there's several, but I have to shout out my mother. She is the core reason why I am so creative and why I know there's always a solution to any problem or any obstacle. And that also you can find ways to make things better. She by far is the most just ingenious person I know. And as a woman who, came from an arranged marriage, didn't have the opportunity to finish college, there are these certain stereotypes or standards of, what, can provide creativity or intelligence and things of that nature. But she is born with just natural grit and creativity. And literally anything is possible that way. So I have to absolutely shout out my mother there.
Well, that's phenomenal, because it's important that we give that shout out to those influencers in our life. So as you were growing up, what interest did you have? And, usually all kids have this different dreams. I'm going to be this when I grow up. Did you have any of those?
I did. I have 3. I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to be a vet. And I wanted to be an animal police officer. So advocacy for those who cannot defend themselves or speak for themselves, and teaching, and being with people and others were clearly things that stood out to my folks of that's what she's going to do when she grows up, something in this world.
Oh, love that. And, it's just kind of fascinating how much we can learn from our pets or
Mhm.
even nature, or like, as you're talking about animals, or like just sitting and watching that little bird. Or
Yes.
so,
I'm not sure if you've had the chance yet to see Jane Goodall's documentary on Netflix that just came out, as she recently passed on, and it is fascinating. But what I love is she said she could never grasp how people would say they could be bored. And she'd say in nature, there's always something to watch, observe, and learn. And I find that fascinating to when you're saying, when you are going through the difficult moments, it's very easy to fixate on exactly what's happening to you and feel certain emotions. But if you were to just look up and look around, step outside, or even just listen, you see that so much is going around you to be grateful for. And it really helps with that perspective. So she's someone I certainly look up to as well.
oh, absolutely. I'll definitely have to. She's one of my heroes. And
Yes,
we
yes.
could talk about nature for the rest of it. And I'm sure.
Yes, yes. And her advocacy for animals too, right? It ties in very well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I do want to bring back to you, like, that's such a beautiful dream that you had. And then as you kind of went through your high school and college, where did your
Mhm.
interest take you?
Well, it took me to I love doing musicals and performing. So I joined choirs, and then my team would go and compete. And I love being on stage and doing shows. So I think, the takeaway there, looking back and reflecting, was I enjoyed public speaking. I enjoyed performing, and I enjoyed teamwork, and all of those things. When you're in a choir, you have to work well. I was a soprano, but you have to work well with all different levels of the alto, tenor, and bass to make sure that you're harmonizing. So, while lots of folks grow up learning teamwork via sports, I learned the same tools and mechanisms through singing and music, and that part of harmony, whether you're on the field or you're on the stage.
Mm. And that is so powerful because whether it is sports or arts or science or music,
Hmm.
that's something that binds the whole humanity. Doesn't matter where you're from.
Hmm.
If it's good music, you will be nodding your head to the rhythm. Doesn't matter whether you understand the words or you don't. And that is such a powerful thing that you said that you learned the lessons from there. What was like, a couple of lessons that you have carried with you even today?
From those experiences, you are better together. You're
Mhm.
stronger together. You can be powerful, and you can perform well, sound well on your own. But you are always that much stronger and better when you have others alongside with you. And making sure that you're also aware of others. I'm an incredibly empathetic human being. And so, being cognizant of those around you and how you are incorporating them and finding the best superpowers in people, I think, is one of my strengths. And that's something I learned too by observing, and listening. So in music, it's a lot, you sing, but you have to listen. I think a lot of times in our world, we like to share our opinions quickly, chime in, but a lot of times folks need you to pause and listen and take in what it is that they're trying to tell you.
Mhm. That is such a powerful superpower to have because when you understand people, whether it's through listening or through observing,
Mhm.
you don't have to think how you can support them. It comes naturally. And that is such a beautiful way to be a leader. And so tell us your journey from being a soprano to getting into the corporate world.
Okay. So once my father figured out, all right, medicine's not going to be her thing. Business is her thing. My dad's a nephrologist. And so he had said, you take a shine to people. That's your superpower. What do you think about business? And business is so broad. You could do anything. And I am a big data nerd. I love numbers. And so really we were debating, should I go into finance? And I had a mentor in college that said, you'd be great for marketing. And I was like, what's marketing? Like I see TV ads, radio ads. And I was led to an internship at Merrill Lynch. And I'm going to call out my very first mentor, Angela Ponticello, who absolutely changed my life. The internship was at Merrill Lynch, and it was half marketing, half finance. And I remember him sitting me down in his office and saying, you really got the numbers thing down. You're taking a shine to marketing. I want you to meet someone I know. And his wife's very best friend, Lisa Feckenhauer, who's still a dear friend to this day, was working at a local ad agency. And he had said, why don't you go meet her for the day? And I think they had day internships back then. And I said, all right, let's go do this. And I remember walking off onto this agency, and you have to go up through an elevator, and the elevator doors ding open, and I knew I was in love. And it was like you had said, you can nod your head to music, but also you're feeling something, and you have to listen to your body and the feelings in which it emits. It'll tell you things sometimes quicker than even your brain. And I felt like this was my home. I belonged here. There was so much energy, camaraderie, passion. There was just so much buzz. And I said, what is marketing? I have to figure out what they do here. And so I had this day internship. It turned into a week. And then I was so fortunate and turned into a job offer before I graduated college. And that's how I started my marketing role in Rochester, New York. So upstate New York, big shocker. I'm from there. Wow, another person from New York living in North Carolina, right? But, I followed my passions through. And if you're from Rochester, you go to New York City to advance your knowledge and career in marketing. It's the biggest hub there. It's the Big Apple. It's exciting. And within my 10 years in New York, I bopped around from going to my first client in-house position at Tiffany & Company. And that gave me exposure to building and launching new products and services, doing marketing on a global level, which was really exciting. And it led me all the way to also working within startups. I have two dear friends in college that were brave and bold enough to start their own startup called Brand Networks. I was their third hire in New York City, and they're still doing fantastic. So shout out to them too. So from there, that was corporate America. And I ended up boomeranging back to Rochester thinking, this is it. I have my house, the kids, the dogs, the dream. But after my youngest, my daughter, turned 2, this wonderful thing called sleep came back to me. She started sleeping through the night. And yes, I'm one of those parents who had kids who didn't sleep. And you take that for granted, let me tell you. But I wanted more. And I have family here in North Carolina that said, this is a really great place to raise your children. And the market's booming for marketing. And so we moved down, and I found Walk West, and I met Donald Thompson, who is a game changer, life changer for me, very well-known gentleman in the area. And he, it came down to him saying, when I was given the opportunity to become CMO at a very great bank in Rochester to working at Walk West back in the agency world, he kind of scoffed and said, you think you're made for corporate America. You want to come back in the ring for the agency world. And so I did. And it was through Donald's mentorship that becoming a CEO fell into my lap, which is kind of a weird thing to say. Like, generally speaking, it's a goal you obtain and go towards. But my mantra is right behind me is work hard and be nice to people. And I truly think things fall into place with that mindset. And so when Donald, went off to be CEO at the diversity movement, he had said, I want you to put your hat in the ring to be CEO of Walk West. I always thought I'd be a CMO, being in marketing. But I said, you know what? You don't know what you don't know. Try. And I was very fortunate. And that's how I fell into that corporate world and my first real exposure into the C-suite. And it was an experience I am so grateful for. I learned so much, and it shaped my life.
You talked about a lot of transitions. You talked about, okay, here I am. I love the animals, from there into music to finance to CMO, and becoming in the CEO and the marketing, and then the startup, because a lot of people are very, very hesitant.
Yes.
So I want us to talk about younger generations.
Mm-hmm.
So younger generations, and especially nowadays, unfortunately, a lot of young college graduates are not able to find jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure if it is AI generated or what it is, a lot of coding and all of that is happening, but somehow, I was just reading that.
Mm-hmm.
What message would you have to those youngsters? You have been through so many transitions.
Mm-hmm.
What are a few things that they could do to set themselves up for next few years?
The world is so beautifully different now. You can't give up hope. There is more flexibility than ever in the world. Back in my day, you go in, it's very strict on what the rules are. It is, at this time to this time, it is in person only. There weren't a lot of entrepreneurs. Then there were not a lot of contract workers, hybrid workers at that time. And now I really want to tell the younger folks, do not give up. Do not give up hope. For me, similarly, I graduated college in 2007 and we hit the recession and there were no jobs. It was so hard to obtain a job, but you have to hustle and you have to believe in yourself and you have to gain that confidence of who you are. I would strongly suggest building out your network. You will never know where meeting one person for coffee can lead you and who they may know. And you have to truly believe in yourself and practice gratitude. I can't express how much practicing gratitude has changed my life. There is so much out there to be grateful for and to manifest, the things that you desire and want, building out a plan. A lot of folks give up hope, but if you can start mapping out, again, with a mentor, a friend, your parents, whomever, take it one step at a time. One step is digestible, one step is approachable, and build your confidence that way. Like you say, beyond confidence. Don't lose that confidence and forget who you are and keep chasing your dreams.
Absolutely. And I am going to your point, I'm going to add to that. It's not just about confidence. You're just starting out in your life. Go beyond confidence because you're made for more. And Abba, as you mentioned, that, especially in today's world, I personally have lived multiple lives in this life. The things are so much
Yes, I completely understand.
things are flexible in the sense that there are a whole lot more options versus, if you were to go back, even like 2 or 3 decades back, it wasn't there. So
Yes.
yes, internet and the web and social media, it has its downplays, but it also has its lot of like openings and opportunities and possibilities. So, okay, we have talked about the younger ones. Now, a lot of times, women, we still hear that women are still being paid, not sure like what was the current, like 85 cents or whatever to the dollar that a man is getting paid. What do you say to that?
You have to advocate for yourself or no one's going to do it. Personally, for myself, I think the number one tip also I give people, no matter what your age is you go into a role and you make yourself invaluable. Where a company, it would hurt a company to lose you, right? And so you have to find ways to add your own special thumbprint, your own special sauce to wherever it is that you go. But you must always advocate for yourself. You do not settle. And you fight for what you are worth, but also what are you bringing to the table, right? So making sure that you are tracking, documenting, and really showcasing it. What is it that you are contributing to any organization? But we don't just say, oh, this is the gap and it's going to take another 20 years to close it. Every single person listening can make a difference for us to get there faster and in a much more efficient way.
Mm-hmm. So you brought up some very valuable points. You said make yourself invaluable. What are
Mhm.
some of the ways where people can find, especially sometimes what happens is that they may be in a repetitive job and don't
Mhm.
have different opportunities to shine?
Yep. So a job is never just a job. You could be in accounting and think that your job is just numbers and things of that nature. But when you look at an organization is way more than what it represents. So are you going to be adding in? I'll give you a very random example. I had a director of media. We were in hybrid times. I never thought I'd lead an organization during COVID where we couldn't even see each other, being an extrovert. And our culture was hurting. Our connection was hurting. And if you don't have people connecting to something, you will see that your business will decrease in effort and energy and what your output is, right? And so he had said, I know I'm head of media and whatnot, but I do believe it's really good for us to bring folks together. I would like to start a committee for whether it's Meditation Mondays or doing cultural events for us together or to getting happy hours together, whatever it is to bring people and productivity together. He then ideated with somebody else who had said, hey, I want to do little webinars and get folks up to speed on how to learn A, B, C, and D. So once we then saw more engagement, more people joining the calls, more people participating, you would then see our creativity, our spark, our camaraderie increased. That's adding value to a company. So truly get creative on what it is that you think your company is lacking. It can be in the cultural realm. It could be a product or service that you could add that would help your revenue goals. Getting creative and then contributing is absolutely something anybody can do right now in this moment.
Very powerful. So what I'm hearing is find the gaps.
Mm-hmm.
That will translate into ROI, which
And the
is
white
return on
space, find the
investment.
gaps. Yes. And to whatever it is that you want to shine in. Absolutely.
Mhm. And that's a really good point, that it's not only finding the gaps and going after it, but where you want to shine and you want to bring light. So then that makes you invaluable.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so many times what happens is that people are very hesitant, whether it's men or women, to advocate for themselves. I'm sure you have heard in your career, and I hear that from my clients all the time. You know, what if my message doesn't land? And when they find, like, somebody's not nodding their heads, and especially if
Mm-hmm.
it's remote, like, people have their cameras turned off. I don't want to ask the question, what if people think that I'm stupid? Or what is the perception? What would you tell them?
There comes a point in your life, and I don't want to say you don't care about what other people think, because you always will care. We're humans. But if you truly were to factor in and consider everyone else's 1 million different ways they can respond, how will you ever grow? How will you ever learn? How are you ever taking a risk and getting the reward? You're not. So if you decide to stay quiet and in your bubble and in your box, frankly, that's on you. But what's the worst that could happen? If someone doesn't agree with it, maybe they won't agree, but they could say, "Hey, this person's an idea maker. I want to add them to this conversation and brainstorm with me." Or it could be the best idea in the world. But the last thing you want to do is ever have regret for not speaking up. Or what could also happen is you have the idea, you stay quiet, someone else says it, and you're like, I had the same idea. Whoever wants
Mhm.
to be that guy or hear that person say that, right? There's no harm in speaking up for yourself. Because again, if you don't, you're going to be that quiet person in the meeting who's not bringing or adding any value. And we all have so much more we can add if we can work on having the courage to do so.
Mhm. And that's important to know, that before you go and advocate for yourself, it's important to start contributing. It's important
Mhm,
to create that impact
mhm,
that's meaningful to people as well as to the overall revenue.
mhm.
Now, so many times, a lot of women and men will, a lot of professionals will say that there are layers between the C suite leadership and them. So, how can they garner the visibility?
What I love to do is ask them out for coffee, ask them out for lunch. Because what I find fascinating is you can learn from anyone, and I mean anybody, all the way from the CEO to, the janitor, to the assistant. Everyone has a compelling story. You don't know where their paths have led them. You can learn something from everyone, but if your goal is to connect with the C-suite, I would advise you find someone that you look up to, and want to learn from, and say, I'd love to get coffee and I'd love to listen to your journey. That is an incredibly easy way to bring down the wall. And it's not that you're asking them for a promotion, for funding, or things of that nature. You want to learn from them. And who doesn't like sharing their story? And I think that could go a very far way of saying, this is someone who's trying to make a simple connection with me. How do you say no? How many people do you randomly meet at conferences that you get coffees with, right? It's very disarming, and it's a way to build a connection, and it gives you a direct line, but also it allows the person you're meeting with to get to know you as well. So it's no longer this terrifying, oh my God, the CEO is walking in, or the CFO is here, or, whomever. It's like, at the end of the day, if people are listening, everybody is a human. When I used to live in New York City, there were celebrity sightings everywhere. And at first I'd be like, oh my God, it's so-and-so, it's so-and-so. I was in the elevator once with Tyra Banks and I was like losing my mind. But then I was like, you know what? She's a person. Everyone's a person. We're all humans. And when you really put that perspective on, I'm a human, you're a human, he's a human, it's not as intimidating. I would think, is putting that in that perspective. So I say make that contact, ask for that coffee, ask for even a walk around the building when you're in the office that day. It can be very simple to make that connection.
Hmm. Very powerful. As they say, proximity is power.
Hmm.
And you can create proximity with just a simple ask for coffee.
Yes, and I can guarantee you, you have 3 things in common with anybody in this world. You could like dogs, you could like traveling, you could like coffee, the same sports team, sports in general. And when you find those ways to connect, it really makes it powerful.
It does. Coming back to your journey as a CEO,
Mhm.
tell us, what lessons did you learn during that time? Was the journey solitary? Because a lot of people say that it becomes very isolated.
Mhm.
And what were some learnings? And if you have any stories of any ups and downs, that would be great.
Absolutely. It is incredibly isolating. And I was not aware of that, but my mentor had said, you won't know until it happens, until you sign that paperwork. Because I was at the company for several years before. I said, no way. I know that's probably going to happen to everybody else. There's no way it's going to happen to me. I've known these folks for years and years. But she's right, because there's a level of confidentiality, decisions you have to make that can be difficult. And it is incredibly isolating. So my suggestion there for fellow leaders in those positions is find others in that role or realm with you to connect with. And I think what's beautiful is there are a lot of groups and organizations and folks you can meet to connect with, so you don't feel so alone. So to answer that question, 100% yes. It is absolutely isolating. Uh, and what I learned, is taking the time to listen to your employees. So an example here is you may think you know the best way to do something from your own personal experience, from your own personality. But I had my mentor come in and she led a group, and I found out my organization at the time, let's say, was 95% introverts and 5% extroverts. You can guess which bucket I fell into. But if you have an extrovert leader, and most of your employees are introverted, and this is when we were debating the hybrid scheduling, if their
Mhm.
productivity can excel being introverted within their homes, why would I demand they come in 5 times a week? That's not productive for anybody. That doesn't work for anyone. And I took the time to listen to the whys, but for the folks to make sure, all right, we're in X number of times a week because this is good for culture and community and brainstorming. But these are the times in which y'all can be home, work on the things you want to work on in the way in which you've expressed to me is most productive for you. But here are the expectations and the guardrails that you have. So I think setting expectations and being very clear what you expect of your people is paramount for success, and listening to the ways in which they want to work and doing your best to incorporate that as well. When you lead with an iron fist and you say, this is the way we're going to do it, and that's it, personally speaking, from my experiences, that's not the most productive way to run an organization. So really listening to your folks and learning about them is key.
Mm. What would you say, there was one thing, if you were to go back, oh, if I had known that,
Mm-hmm.
I would have done differently.
If I had known COVID was coming, I certainly would have set us up a little bit differently, for sure, in getting us, ready for the hybrid world. That's like the biggest thing. I can certainly, when people ask me, like, what's the one thing if you could have a magic 8 ball? I wish I could have, so I would have known more. I think I would have done more things outside and gotten the team, more together regularly and have some more ways to connect. I wish we had more resources too that we could share, at the ready. As again, it was new to all organizations, but maybe a buddy system would be nice to have set up, things of that. But I certainly would have loved to have changed some things around in that hybrid work style before COVID hit us all.
Mhm. And what are a couple of things that you did and you take pride in it? Like, oh, yeah, I did that. That had such a big impact. What
My
was?
my biggest pride in my career, I will say, is that we didn't have to let go of anyone during COVID.
Mm,
And it's because, thank you. It's not, I applaud my team too, because what we did was we banded together and we got creative. So
mm,
being a marketing firm, we were building websites and things of that nature, but we quickly pivoted and said, all right, for our clients to succeed, One of them is in the beverage space. We had to quickly incorporate e-commerce into their platforms and their sites and their system because you couldn't go out and purchase anymore in person. And so when we found ways in which we could bring our, especially brick and mortar organizations to e-commerce, everybody, won. And so I really credit my team, the hard work, the learning that they put in to help our clients succeed and our organization succeed. But it is my most proud moment in my career, because my team, we were 25. So they were family to me. They weren't just numbers by any means. I knew their family members, their children, they have mortgages, benefits. It's a lot of weight on your shoulders in this role. But I was really glad that we could see that through.
Yeah, no, and it's such a beautiful way to look at it. And for me, that would be the utopia in the corporate world, because whenever I hear people being laid off, I just cringe, because
Yes.
being a people person, there's always a story.
Yeah.
There's somebody, it could be, like you said, mortgages and all of that. And if we could find ways
Mm-hmm.
to work around it, and
Yeah.
even if it's people. So many times what happens is that you hire people, but they're not right for the job. It's
Mm-hmm.
not that they're not good, they're just
Mm-hmm.
not the right fit.
Mm-hmm.
What would you encourage the leaders to do in those situations?
Find the strengths of that person and see where they can apply, right? So, someone can come in as one realm and you say, all right, this is the experience they had. This is why we hired them. But how much of a person can you know within 2 or 3 interviews, right? Like, you don't truly know everything about them, but everyone does have strengths. So can you find strengths that would apply and help the business? But if not, you do have to make sure you're not trying to, what they say, ram a square peg into a round hole or vice versa. But I do believe that everyone has strengths they can contribute. So getting to know that person and what is their passion. People perform better, much better, when they do things that align with their values, their goals, and their passion points. So in listening to someone and say, what makes you tick? What do you like about the job? What do you do in your spare time? You can learn a lot about people to say, oh, you didn't mention you did this in the past, or you have this skill set. This could help the organization in this way. What do you want to talk about with A, B, and C, and D? I know you are in this role, but have you considered potentially going into project management? If you say you are very organized and love to keep people, up to date on schedules and things of that nature. But I think you really have to take a full chance on getting to know someone and their skill sets to see where you can apply them.
Mm-hmm. You have mentioned that, you've been in startups. So
Mm-hmm.
many times what happens is that people are in startup mode, and then the cultures can be really, really good because you can accommodate a small team. And then fast forward, it becomes a mid-sized company. Fast forward a little bit, they go for IPO, and so many millennials and Gen Zs, it's about growth and financial compensation and the culture. So what happens is that, now they're vested in the stocks, they see the company's doing good, very happy, very excited. Lo and behold, fast forward, maybe
Mm-hmm.
6 months down the road. Now the shareholders and the board members' the eyes are on the company. Let's say, something tanks, the share falls, and the leadership, who's brand new in that role, like having all those eyes on them, then they start creating all these rhetorics. And during this, what happens is, and I've seen this time and time again as I've coached, is that the same professionals and leaders who had put in their sweat, like, yeah, this is going to be my equity. And of course, like, they're not going to be vested for another 2 to 3 years, but they're not feeling recognized.
Mm.
How can they understand, right? The leadership is new to it. And the mid-tier is also new to it. So now they're going from a culture of that wellness and, like, caring for each other into this fast-paced. What could they do to tide through these tough times?
You have to rally. I mean, you have to rally. It's like time and time again, there are these videos and quotes and inspirations you see of, we all have fire in us, but is someone lighting that fire? Are you lighting that fire? You can be at the bottom of the totem pole and recognize the culture's tanking, the company's tanking, Who is going to go and inspire and light the fire and the flame and motivate people? I mean, that is on leadership 100% to be sure that that's happening. But if you do see a void and you're not in leadership, step up. And you have to get the team together to go behind the same cause. So what I mean by that is I was in a lot of M&A, so a lot of acquisition in the banking world, and we were very fortunate to acquire a lot of banks, but you had to be so careful when you acquired. You're not just taking off the name, slapping a new one on and saying, this is your new name, role, and whatnot. You are bringing them into a family, into the fold, into the culture, making them feel like they're a part of something. Because if you don't feel, or you don't make someone feel like they're a part of something, why would they care? Of course, they're going to burn out. They're going to feel resentful. They're going to feel underappreciated. You have to make sure that you're consistently setting the tone to what is the North Star. And by leadership, you need to be transparent and saying, this is why we're all working so hard. We are going towards this goal together. And every single person here plays a part in hitting this goal for the company to succeed and do well. Then everyone is united. They understand the what and the why, and you have that motivation and focus to work together to get there. But a lot of times I see leadership very behind the scenes, not sharing where the progress of the company is, why we're doing this the way that we're doing it. And then you're going to hear the people inevitably say, well, I don't know why we're doing this. We should be doing it this way because this way is better, right? But if you explain the why, then people will understand why. It's literally almost like having children. You tell your don't touch the stove. Why? Because you're going to burn your hand. There's a repercussion to that. Hey, we need to do homework. Why? So we can make sure we're learning to read. You know what I mean? So, with children, if you just say, don't do that, the first thing they're going to say is why, and they're going to want to do it. So we deserve explaining things to people so they know why and keeping them motivated, and also making sure you're retaining the people who are behind the why, because if they aren't behind the why, they're going to add toxicity, and that's not good for any company either.
Yeah. Now, and you captured it very powerfully, that if you're bought into the why, then what and how don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
So as we are coming close to wrapping up our show, share a little bit about what might be next for you. How can people connect with you?
Well, I've been very lucky. So when I was going through succession training at Walk West to be CEO, I had a passion with wellness. And I had said, you know what, I may not get this job. So what do I want to do? And I said, this is the time for me to jump and leap. Leap is one of my favorite words that my mentor said, leap and the net will appear. And so I got my nutrition coaching certification, and a client at Walk West had said, okay, well, I'm going to be your first client in nutrition. Figure it out, even though I did it for my own education. So I ended up opening my own LLC. So to all my folks listening, to fill your cup and have passion, because we have to work to survive at times, right? You can't always have your dream job, but you can find ways to find passion and make your heart happy. So for me, opening an LLC was very scary how easy it was and quick. It took me 20 seconds online. But there you go. I'm a small business owner, and now I have nutrition clients. Then I got my personal training degree as well, so I can also incorporate in that way. I learned that I could coach part-time in gym. So there are manageable ways you can do this, my friends, to make sure that you are following a passion and learning and growing. Because just because you decided to have one job, to my young folks, just because you decided to go into finance doesn't mean you're married to finance for the rest of your life. Like you were saying, Divya, we have so many different lives and people that we were and able to be, but we decided that, right? We took that leap of faith. So I am excited. In the next week, there's going to be a fun announcement coming out. So stay tuned for that on where my next journey goes. But if I can advise anything to anyone, is be open-minded, listen to your heart, listen to the voice in your head. You are so much stronger or more capable than you are aware of, but you have to go get it. So you got to put in that work and those steps and make those connections, and beautiful things will come when you manifest, when you have hope, and when you stay routine. I love this quote I shared today, and it was along the lines of, willpower is a muscle you can strengthen. So I'm talking even outside of the gym, my friends. Your brain, your willpower, your energies, it's something you control and you can strengthen and use in a powerful way.
That's beautiful. And any last thoughts or anything else you'd like to share?
So, if anyone here is feeling hopeless or that they're stuck in a rut, you got this. Take it day by day and set little goals for yourself to help you get to where you want to be. Just don't give up. You can absolutely do this. All right, y'all. So hang in there. You got this. Find your dream. Go beyond the confidence, like we always say here. And you can make any goal attainable. And I hope everyone for the best there and keep connecting.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Abha, for being so open and sharing your thoughts and wisdom. So I'm sure listeners that you're looking forward to connecting with Abha. She is on LinkedIn, and her LinkedIn profile, if you want to just kind of read it out and also like share your email, that would be great.
Oh, yes. You'll find me with Abha Bowers, ABHA, last name BOWERS. I'm the only one you'll find on LinkedIn. And my email is abhaabha@reachandmetal.com.
Well, lovely. It was such a pleasure to have this conversation with you. You bring so much joy and hope to people.
Thank you.
And we wish you the best in your journey. And I'm sure and positive that you'll continue to light the way for others.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I've been fortunate to have it before, so we have to remember to reach back. Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
My pleasure and joy. And thank you, wonderful audience, because without you, the show would not be possible. So reach out, let us know, who can we bring? Which stories do you want to hear? What do you want to learn? So we can make your life the best you can, because you deserve to live the life you want to. And thank you, Juan, for being our visit tech and making the show possible.
Yes.
Take care and be well until next time.
Thank you.
Thank you for being part of Beyond Confidence with your host, Divya Parekh. We hope you have learned more about how to start living the life you want. Each week on Beyond Confidence, you hear stories of real people who have experienced growth by overcoming their fears and building meaningful relationships. During Beyond Confidence, Divya Parekh shares what happened to her when she stepped out of her comfort zone to work directly with people across the globe. She not only coaches people how to form heart connections, but also transform relationships to mutually beneficial partnerships as they strive to live the life they want. If you are ready to live the life you want and leverage your strengths, learn more at www.divyaparekh.com. And you can connect with Divya at contact@divyaparekh.com. We look forward to you joining us next week.